Okay, so I went an hour trying to tell you guys how I joined the church. And that's awesome. But I really want to take time to do a small moment explaining why blacks were not allowed to hold priesthood. This was a day and time when we did have prevalent racism because of mostly communists and, of course, Luciferian globalists trying to hurt the church. You know, the church had really gone through a lot of persecution. I'm talking like you wouldn't believe. I'll tell you that in the next segment. But when they started joining the church, see, when you're an elder, you could be called in the middle of the night, you know, Brother Jackson, Sister Johnson's having her baby, and you're supposed to go give her a blessing. Well, at the time, not a lot of white people had met black people. The fact is that less than 1% of the country ever owned slaves. Some people bought slaves just because they felt sorry for them, and the people who were selling them would actually mistreat them as a mechanism to get people to buy them. No, you've never seen a white man chase down a black man and conk him on the head and drag him anywhere. It was black people who were warring, you know, with the other village, and one of their best way to get rid of your enemy is after you conk them on the head, and sell them to the slave trades, so they'd be way far away and they could never come back out of the jungle to have their revenge. Okay, that's a very short, simplified version of it. Okay. So, blaming the white people of America for slavery is like you blaming me for what the 1% do. That is nuts, okay? And may I reiterate, or, you know, because I've said this over and over, but wasn't it white people who laid down their lives and spilled blood and almost wrecked this country because they were trying to free the slaves? Now, that's the tree hugger, or, you know, the maudlin, overly emotional. That was the guys. The devil always does that. He says things like, oh, we're taking over the country because we care. They don't care about homosexuals. Believe me, I'll tell you more about that. The whole like racial question. You're never going to meet anybody more racist than liberals, okay? I grew up liberal. Both parents. I think I started to tell you, my parents were both initially communists. Um, I'm being kind of careful because my mother, you know, she's still alive and I love her. God love her. She, you know, and her and I are quite opposite in the powers that we serve. She wrote how Mysticism and Magic by Gina Caracas, Dr. Gina Caracas, and let me not forget that. And I'm, you know, I'm Jamie. So it's just kind of interesting because for us to be in such opposite forces is really wow. So anyway, at the time, the black people had full membership in the church, all of the blessings, all of the perks, because you know we take care of each other. So if they didn't have food, they get food, you know, whatever. If anything, they have an elevated position in the church. They got all the benefits and none of the duties. That's not how it's proposed by the outside world, however. So I took it to the Lord myself. And I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Uh oh, my throat chakra. Look at, don't like this part. The first segment I did was so icky, bamboozled and klutzy that I pretty sure he didn't think that he had to bother me. Excuse me for burping. So anyway, imagine going out in the middle of the night to go give a blessing to a beloved sister. You're black. And there stands the Klan with a cross. Like I said, not many people had seen black people at the point. Imagine you're having your baby or you're having one of the worst moments of your life, you need a blessing, and a black man comes through the door. This is new for you. It's going to be traumatic. This is the last moment you need to deal with that kind of stuff, okay? So the Lord excused them from service. It's not as if they had missed out on some prize, you know. It's a duty, it's a calling. And I'll tell you, priesthood and priestcraft are very different things. I can't even explain that right now. I'm only 5 minutes in. Did the first hour, no problem. Now I'm feeling a lot less nervous. Apparently, the devil got sent away, and now my throat is freaking out. Confirmation. I'm having all kinds of mishigas going around me. So this is going to have to be a short because I'm having drama. Pardon me for a moment, please. The Lord taught me that if I'm coughing uncontrollably, instead of coughing it out, because I have a really bad hernia, to just scrape the itchy part with a piece of cloth. It looks terrible. Looks like I'm gagging myself, but it's effective, and that's what matters. And I come to find that about a lot of things in my life. Doesn't matter how it looks. Am I doing what works? See, it's not about good and bad. God revealed that to me as well. He said it's not about what's good or what's bad, it's what works. If somebody's coming at your family and they're gonna kill him, then you gotta kill them back. But that isn't before they do. You want to unalive them. I'm not supposed to even say that word. Um, but murder, that's very wrong. Murder and killing are completely different things. You're going to find that many things have been mistranslated. If you want the most accurate, you're going to have to get the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible. I'm expecting people to hate on me. I'm expecting people to, hey, ain't nothing, it's not new, okay? This has been going on my whole life. I'm also a full-blooded Jew, so hey, I'm used to it. You know, I've even told people, go ahead, you guys can go bond on how you hate me. You know what I mean? I used to tell people, don't hate me because you hate me, because a lot of people do. I currently have a witch that wants to be my doppelganger. She literally fantasizes about cutting off my head and wearing my face. You're like, ugh. Uh, hmm? Develop your own beauty. Everybody's beautiful. And women, we've been given where we can wear makeup and jewelry and perfume, all of which began as magic. Uh, all medicine that you know started from sorcery and whatnot. And so, trying to mess with me, he is, because I do believe in truth. And so, anyway, yes, black people were not only accepted into the church, but they were literally given an elevated position where they got all the services, they got all the privileges, but they were excused from their responsibility because at the time it was a security nightmare. And the racism that has been drummed into this country, uh, I mean, literally drummed into this country. United we stand, divided we fall. And it's been happening all over the world where they create massive movements and mass migrations hoping to disrupt our cultures because they want to turn us into one gray, tasteless, insipid culture that has no flair. I don't know about you, but I love going to a Spanish friend's house and having their Spanish food. And then going over to a Chinese person and having their Chinese food. And then going to a Mexican house. Yes, Spanish and Mexican are different. A Mexican is half Spanish, half Native American. And Native American food is completely different from the other two. And then you've got Hawaiian, and you've got, these are just the things that I've tried. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. And yes, I can cook from at least 20 different countries. But a lot of people don't even know there's more than 20 different countries. It's really sad. Education has been very dumbed down in America by design. Knowledge is power. And the internet is like having the world in your hand. Now, yes, they have greatly been censoring it and gatekeeping and whatnot, but because that's not what we built the internet on. I was raised at NASA. And so I think it's going to be a wild ride for everybody because when I tell you the gospel, which again means the good news, a lot of you are going to feel pretty upset. You know, narcissistic abuse victims don't even know that they are. I don't like the word victim, victors. Narcissistic abuse experiencers and victors. Afterwards, they get angry. And they're like, I can't believe I fell for that. And for years, they've gone through this and they never even knew what was really going on. And it's going to be the same with you because the adversary, biggest narcissist of all. Narcissists are full of themselves and they think they're so flawless, but they actually hate themselves. And they hate you too. And they want to make you suffer just for existing. And they don't care if you hurt, they like it. They get off on it. So when the black people joined the church, it was because they knew the vibe they were getting from their Mormon friend or missionary. And I sure hope that you've been able to experience the light of Christ. We all have that. Some people call it our, I don't know what, oh, there was a word that somebody was saying earlier, intuition, you know. Your intuition is the light of Christ, okay? Everybody, even a person who's never even heard of Jesus, we have in our gut that little resonant where we resonate with something or we don't. And a lot of us, we know when we're being lied to, you know. I have a very special friend who's being lied to all the time. And I believe he knows he is. I believe that he just doesn't want to face that harsh and ugly truth. Meanwhile, the devil's been telling him she's lying to you, which is ridiculous because what is my motivation? I'll go more into that later. In the meantime, I wanted to let you know that not only is this not a racist church, but we actually have an organization in the church that just the black people join to sustain one another and to come up with new methods for teaching because it, imagine having a spiritual cure to cancer. You know, you'd be so silly to say, I'm embarrassed. I don't want anybody to know and keep it for yourself. That's one thing that I don't like about my Jewish background is we're not a missionary type thing. It's like, well, no, if they have God, they'll have power and we have to keep it to ourselves. Keep in mind, we haven't even accepted Jesus yet, so this is a whole lot. I love my people. Do not get it wrong, and I'm going to work real hard to bring every one of them. There's a reason that rabbis are coming in mass exodus because they run into this 19-year-old missionary who's still wet behind the ears, so to speak, and he knows this ancient knowledge that this rabbi wasn't even allowed to read until he was 60. And so they're like, how do you know? You know, now when you join the church, like I said, they sat shiva for me. And you're a rabbi. Now, rabbi means teacher. It doesn't mean priest. The priest is Kohen or Cohen. And so the Kohen, it's a whole nother story. But yeah, when you leave being a rabbi to become a Christian, much less a true Christian, I can't. I love it when people tell me. I'll tell them I'm LDS, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm Christian." It just tickles me because the only valid church run by God Himself and belongs to Jesus, that Jesus is commissioning, and running is this church. Aren't you blessed that He cared enough about you that you found it? Whether or not you continue, that's up to you. And uh, again, the war in heaven wasn't over sex, drugs, and rock and roll, guys. It was over free will. And again, I don't care if you bring me my favorite meal. If I'm not hungry and you try to stuff it down my throat, I will clock you. And so that, you know, when you have that rebel spirit and you know that that's a good thing, you know, but all good things can be misused and can be overboard. Okay. When you see these rebels without a clue, moderation in all things, you can even overdo church, you know, there is such thing as toxic righteousness. As soon as you do become perfect, you have to be transfigured on this planet. So if pastor or bishop or prophet isn't perfect, because they're still on the planet, then why are we throwing darts at each other? That's like the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Meanwhile, we're trying to make sense of all this. And what really got me was the fact that there's an answer to every question. And even if it hasn't been written, you have the right and the ability to get on your knees and find out. Now, I'm going to take that back because you don't have to get on your knees. We're always being told in different religions, for example, you have to face this direction, you have to be on a rug, you have to do this, or you got to do that, and you do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. If you're laying in bed and you're conscious and you can't lift a finger, you can still pray to your Heavenly Father. And I don't know if you've ever seen a mustard seed, but they're quite difficult to spot. And the fact of the matter is, if you have that much faith, you can move mountains. Now, in my case, I do believe in God. In fact, I started out just pretending and it just became more real. I challenge you to do that. Pray if the church is true. Pray if pray if I'm telling you the truth. Start with that. Is that chick a liar? Um, I believe that the Lord will tell you. Now, wicked people are not supposed to know the truth, okay? And the reason for that is because people use information to, well, for example, if you know where the back door is, people sneak into the movies, that's, there's always going to be people, wolves in sheep's clothing. And there's a lot of them in the true church. I mean, I would say that it's almost, I don't want to say ubiquitous, but we may not remember the devil and his minions, but they remember us very much, and they got quite the beef, just so you know. I do want to teach on the war in heaven next, but I really want to get it out that blacks that join this church love this church with a purple passion. Ooh, I'm hating my arms. I'm hating everything. I'm really lucky I got this far because the devil makes me a big insecure bundle of nerves because I'm just convinced I'm hideous. And so uh, I really hope that you'll continue watching the videos, that you'll share them, like them if you like. If you don't like, don't like. I do not want a bunch of liars. I do not like yes men. I don't like obsequious people. Okay, a sycophant I don't need. Whoa. But what I do need are sincere friends. Oh, all of a sudden we're gonna go through this, are we? So I tried to pull it up as far as I could, but anyway, yada yada. Uh, I sure hope you guys can forgive me. Sometimes I will kind of ramble on, blather and whatnot. And that's what's so good about the forward button. Um, guys, I really would pray about it if I were you. Your spiritual survival really depends on it. I'm sometimes like get like a shiver of fear when I think about how just one divergent decision, if I'd have done anything different, I could have accidentally not joined the church, and woe is me, you know. Of course, God always tells me, I always promised I'd guide your path. I will do my picture blessing as well. Ordinarily, we don't share that and, spread it around, not because it's secret, but because it's sacred, If your picture blessing says something good, people tend to lord it over each other, yada, yada. It can be used as an arrogance piece. And in my case, I think I'm doing it by way of information. Again, it's not secret, but it's sacred. And patriarchal, what it means is that's your blessing. In other words, it's God talking to you. You know how we have the scriptures, okay? Well, that's your personal scripture directed just to you. And boy, when I cover that, that's gonna blow your mind because this patriarchal blessing is that I would have children. I'd already been told by the finest doctors on this earth that I would not have children. One of the main reasons I moved in with Keith is because I'd gotten pregnant and I lost twins. I died 3 times that night, and I begged God to let me go. I was in this big, like, cave-ish thing with kind of smoky brown. And at the end, then there was this real dark area, and then there was this really beautiful city. It was just beyond. And I was full ready to go through that darkness. I didn't even care. And I've always been kind of a daredevil, my dad said. He used to call me Maverick, too. That was so insulting because I didn't know what it meant. Now I know what it means. So I'm like, yep, that's me. But he also called me Gidget, and I thought that meant girl midget because I'll never see 4'11". And but it was after the Sally Field show. Once I saw that, I felt much better. But so yeah, you can really misunderstand things when you're a kid. Just like when we saw Foothill, I used to read everything as we go by, and I said Foothill, and my dad said, "No, that's Foothill." Daddy, you don't know how to read. TH is the sound. Yes, isn't it amazing how people who don't know anything think they know everything? And isn't it funny how you get wiser and more knowledge, you realize you don't know nada? And so because it just tickles me. You could literally study. I've qualified for a scholar at least 3 times. You put a certain amount of hours in one particular field of study, and you're considered a scholar. And I still know that I don't know nothing. And it's almost frightening when you realize that you really don't know anything. And that's why I'm pleading with you to find that connection, align yourself with our Heavenly Father, because I've had the experience that time and again, that when you don't have any idea what you're doing, even surgery, if you pray about it, you're likely to get that instruction. I've gotten it, okay? Often they say that faith precedes the miracle. Remember that. Uh, but I'll be honest with you, there was stuff, and I can't tell you how many times I gave up, or I thought I gave up faith. And it's like the Lord is always on time, because I'll be like, fine, and I'll give up, and that split second it comes through. It's like God's like, nah, it's just testing you. Psych, it's kind of funny. And the Lord does have quite the sense of humor. I just want you to know that. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and let this go a half hour. I cannot believe that I've been talking this long. And if you knew how terrified I was when I started, I have no idea why. What were you guys going to do? Throw fruit at me through the screen? But we're like that. And I've always considered myself the kind of person who, was like kind of face out on that. I wasn't. I'm not. I'm what we call an extroverted introvert. I really love my time alone. I have more fun alone than I do with most people. I talk to God most of the day, and I talk out loud, and first I got to do this, and it helps organize me. Also, I have a huge sense of humor, so I joke a lot. Often I prefer my own company to being around other people. But when I'm around other people, I love it. They're great and they're fun. And so everybody thinks I'm this big old extrovert. But to do the things that I like to do, think, and, pass time, you tend to need to be alone. I paint. Well, okay, I'm not going to do that because we'll be here all day. I love everything from sewing to music to singing to everything. You just can't even imagine. Like I said, oh no, I don't know if I said that here, but my dad said that, baby, you're gonna have a man because you want one, not because you need one. And so he taught me how to build a house from the ground up, among other things. Uh, anyway, getting back, I'm gonna be very rusty these first few shows. I did this one back to back just because I figured since I'm already in having the knife. Uh, like I said, I was there and I kept getting told that I had to go back. This is when I passed away. I think this is very important. 3 times that night. What had happened is they were giving me medicines. I raised my brother and sister. That's a big story. And so I had this ability, and I still have it, I think, that when I'm asleep, if you ask me a question, I can answer the question in my sleep because I really need my rest. And so anyway, they were talking to me, the doctors, as they were doing the DNC, getting preparing for it, and they'd given me Darvon, Demerol, whatever. And Keith was there watching. He's this old mountain man. He's so cute. He looks like a little billy goat. I'll tell you more about Keith. Anyway, so he hears one doctor say to the other doctor, I don't get it. We've given her enough to knock out a horse, and she's still talking. Well, Keith heard that and he goes, oh, well, she can talk in her sleep. She's always been in charge, which is true. I've always been in charge of whatever house I was in, and including my dad's. And so, right at that moment, the doctors like looked at each other like, what? I mean, right in the eyes. He said that they were both looking down and they looked up like this at each other. And right then I crashed. And 3 times I died that night. And it was just weird because I'd been told I couldn't have kids. And I just didn't see any other purpose for me at the time. I couldn't stand to watch commercials with kids in them. I couldn't stand to drive down the street and see kids walking, especially when there was a bunch of them, like with a bus or whatever. It was just, there was no reason for me to be here anymore. And God, actually, well, God and I had a special like guide that was with me. No, there was not a lot, a bunch of sparkle and all that. It was very normal. And I just kept arguing and arguing, and I'm a good arguer. Ask anyone who knows me. And I really put up a good case for, letting me go on to the next level. And God was like, no, you have work to do. And uh, I need you to do that work. And he didn't say that I didn't have kids yet. That's why I was shocked when I got my picture of blessing. They said I have kids, and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, it's like a horoscope. And I put it away. Don't dismiss horoscopes either. We were told from the beginning that the stars and moon were meant to be signs for us. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have telephones. Back then, you had to use the stars to say, oh, my mother's sick. And then you would travel and try to go see her. Okay. That's how it used to be. This is a different day and time. The people of the Old Testament, they had doctrine and covenants. That means teachings and promises, mutual promises, agreements. Uh, that are very different from the New Testament people. Now we are in the last days, or it was given in the latter days, and we have different doctrines and teachings. Originally it was 5 for 9, then it went to forgive thy brother. Now, what this church is about, you need to read the Book of Mormon. It's about the South American people, and it's about how you had better learn to stand up for your rights, or you're going to lose everything, okay? And how to stand up for those rights in a way that works, okay? Like I said, it's not about evil or good, it's about what works and what doesn't work, okay? And even in one point, you'll read this yourself, where this looks good. I love Downton Abbey and stuff like that, and this looks, along that line. And so, I'm very into English movies and whatnot, and it's funny because my son, when he was a kid, he literally adopted a British accent. I'm like, where'd that come from? I used to always watch like Doctor Who and Red Dwarf because their dad liked it. I never said anything bad about the dad ever. I would always say, "Hey, your dad loves Star Trek." Anything he liked that was positive, I would make sure that they saw it. You know what I mean? It was like my way of giving them a little bit of daddy. That was a mistake. I think some parents say too much bad stuff. Narcissistic parental alienation is one of the most insidious things on this earth. It's so evil to tell your kids your parent was crap. Now they think they're baby crap. So I didn't. But on the other hand, I laid them open to not such a great person who did his best to destroy their lives just to prove that narcissists do this, okay? I mean, he literally wrote a book about me where he projects all of his abuse on me, like I did. Oh, he can't give you instances at all. It's all, uh, what's the word? Implication and innuendo, but he doesn't give you specific stories. Even in the preface, he's already apologizing, saying, some of this might have happened, some of it didn't. People don't agree with me. This is my truth. It's just nuts, okay? And he's been being found out lately because the fact is, you can't really fake abuse. Until you've been in a panic attack, you're not going to be able to describe it to others in a way that's going to resonate. Only a person who's been under a panic attack can tell you how it, for example, when you go to grab your wheel in a crash, only it can get worse. Uh, it would. Sorry, I'm just kind of tongue tied. I wish I had a way of stopping these timers. I don't like to see timers because they kind of derail me. I can't even tell you. So anyway, it was so funny though because Ian started calling me Maza, and he's so cute. He'll be like, "I have to go clean this. It's a disgrace." You're like, "Oh my god!" And he's like, "Well, I think he was like 7 when he did that." No, yeah, something like that. So, long story short, and we will come back. So I'm already heading towards the 30-minute mark. I can't believe it. We're at 29:10. I really hope you come back. I'd like to tell you some great stories. I talk about religion. I talk about politics. I talk about current events. I talk about my experiences. You might not like everything I have to say, and you know what? That's your prerogative. You're always welcome to come back. You're always welcome to split. The fact of the matter is, I'm doing this as a labor of love. I'm doing this because my Heavenly Father asked me to. I believe that this is part of why I was forced back to Earth. I think Earth is amazing. I think life is amazing. I think that once you know what I know, you're going to find life full of joy. You will have opposition, however, because that's the way the devil works. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.